Question. My daughter was recently diagnosed with level 3 autism. Does that mean that she's quite severe? Well, the diagnostic tools that are used, or the current, it's called the DSM-5. That is helpful way for, I guess, pediatricians or neuropsychologists to give a diagnosis, but like all things, there's flaws with it, so it needs updating, and it has been updated, but it needs updating again. So they need to look at a better way of being able to give the diagnosis. But to be quite fair, it's what they've got at the moment, and it can be quite helpful when it comes to things like funding, implementing certain things in a classroom setting or a work setting, but it can also have quite a negative effect as well. And I'll sort of explain. So they'll diagnose autism as ASD level 1, level 2, or level 3. And some people will say, oh, my child's autism is very mild, or they're only like mildly autistic, or they're high functioning. These are labels that aren't quite accurate, and the autistic community finds them quite offensive. But to be fair to anybody who uses them, unless you talk to people nicely and kindly and explain it to them, you're not going to see a change. So basically, it's not linear. It's not level 1, mild, level 2, moderate, level 3, severe. The reason it doesn't work that way is often they will diagnose a child or a person who is non-speaking as level 3. And what will happen is they write them off as not understanding. So not speaking doesn't mean not understanding. I have spoken to a 3-year-old non-speaking autistic child who's recently been diagnosed with level 3. But then when you speak to him, as soon as you ask him a question, he will nod yes or no. So he's actually responding to me a lot faster than another child at the same age who had been diagnosed with level 2, who was using 7-8 word sentences, way ahead of a child at that time. So he was about 3.5 when he was using sentences that large. So these aren't always, well, most of the time they're not really accurate. Also, someone's autism can be different on a daily basis. But I'll go into the fact that it's not linear. It's called the autism spectrum now, and the word Asperger's, or the diagnosis Asperger's, isn't used anymore because they've realized that that's not quite accurate, because your autism, it's like has a spiky profile, so it can go up and down within the same day. It can change throughout the years, or what you struggle with and what your strengths are. So one way I would sort of look at it, this is a weird way, but this is the sort of thing that I would use to describe it, is imagine somebody who's autistic struggles more than someone else who's also autistic with sensory processing differences in a certain area. So they might be sitting on a country here. So if you look at it like planet Earth, it's not a line, it's not one straight line, it's a very complex, it's a planet. So someone else might really struggle with motor planning or motor functions than the other person. There's various things, so they might sort of struggle more when it comes to your neurotypical social settings and not being able to communicate with neurotypicals. I mean, I can't think off the top of my head all the different things that go into ASD, but shouldn't be ASD. It's not a disorder. It's a difference in neurology. But basically, it's not just the crust either. you're also going to look deeper in the mantle and the inner core and the core. So there's a lot of layers, and it's unique for everybody. So there's that saying that if you've ever met an autistic person, you've met one autistic person, and that's the reason why. And that's why I think there isn't really an autism expert as such, because you can't have an autism expert. I mean, we're talking about the human brain, and they're learning new things more and more every day, and mainly because autistic adults are starting to speak up and describe their experiences. There's a famous so-called autism expert in Australia. Can't remember his name. I always do this. I don't remember his name. I think it's Tony Atkinson. He's apparently done these amazing things for kids with autism, working with people with autism. He's written all these books and he's world renowned. Now, he didn't know his own son, and this is not a dig at him, and it's not to sort of make him look bad, but he didn't realize his own son was autistic. His own son got into drugs, a lot of mental health issues as a cause of probably, I'm guessing, masking. But that just goes to show what we thought we knew of what autism is nothing. It's a lot more diverse and complicated than what even the experts thought. So yeah, I mean, I've really gone off the topic now, but I mean, we could talk about this for hours. But to limit someone to being a level 3 ASD, and just because they might not verbally communicate, to shut them off, that they don't understand, and that not to sort of expect more from that child, or give them the opportunities to be able to build on certain things so they can accomplish more, is not great. And also someone who's level 1 or level 2, because they don't seem so autistic to people. People don't understand how hard they might be working at masking just to fit in, and how much that would affect their mental health and their life when they go back to their house, and also how much they are disabled by sensory differences and the way the environment's set up, because they seem fine to everybody, and then their adjustments aren't put in, like their reasonable adjustments aren't put into place, and they're having to work 50 times harder than a kid who doesn't have these special needs. Special needs, disability is not a dirty word. So I think if we stop making it a dirty word, if we explain to these kids that they are different, but there's nothing wrong with being different, just to be able to understand themselves better and also advocate for themselves and describe their certain needs to everybody around them, they would have a much better life, and they would be able to do so much more than what we thought was possible.